The wind howled across the ancient plains, whipping dust into the blood-stained grass. Long before pyramids, before writing, before even the first whispers of civilization, Africa was a continent of carnage. It was not yet ruled by man, but by hunger, raw, relentless hunger. In this unforgiving Stone Age wilderness, survival was not granted. It was taken, often at the end of a sharpened bone or stone blade. Here, the first humans rose, not as farmers or builders, but as hunters. But what did it truly mean to hunt when the prey could crush you beneath its hooves, or tear you apart with sabered teeth? What drove these ancient predators in human skin to chase death across the dust? Let's step back into the savannah and find out. Before the hunter, there was only the hunted. Africa, 2 million years ago, was no place for soft flesh and hesitation. Towering terror birds stalked the grasslands. Crocodiles the size of trucks ruled the rivers. Hyenas laughed in blood-soaked packs. The mighty saber-toothed cats, with teeth like daggers, prowled silently through the brush, while elephants twice the size of modern ones trampled entire woodlands. And man was nothing, just another scrawny primate, fumbling upright with awkward legs and brittle bones. No claws, no fangs, no fur to shield from the biting cold nights or the midday scorch. But man had something else. A different kind of hunger, a need not just to survive, but to overcome. In this arena of monsters, survival was a victory of intellect. Early hominins like Homo habilis scavenged what they could. They watched, waited, then darted in when the lions were full and the vultures too fat to fight. But even that wasn't safe. A misstep near a carcass could mean a sudden screaming end beneath the jaws of a lurking predator. Fire, when discovered, was not just warmth. It was a weapon, a signal in the night that something new had arrived. Something dangerous. These were the days when man first looked into the eyes of the beasts and didn't run. He stood, he studied, and he began to plan. No longer content with scavenging scraps, man began crafting tools of murder. At first, it was crude, sharp-edged stones torn from riverbeds used to hack through sinew and tendon. Then came the revolution, the hafted spear. A sharpened stone lashed to a wooden shaft. Not thrown, not yet, but driven into flesh at close range, into the ribs of something snarling and massive. It was Homo erectus who truly began to hunt with intent. They moved in silent packs, they learned the terrain, watched for spoor, and listened to the birds for signs of alarm. Every hunt was a gamble with death. Every step toward prey was a step deeper into the unknown. A wrong move could mean being gored by a buffalo or being torn open by a cornered warthog, but they kept going. And the spear changed everything. It extended the arm, giving reach to the kill. It gave courage. Suddenly, humans were not just scavengers, they were competitors, apex predators. And when the throwing spear arrived, it rewrote the rules again. Now man could strike from a distance, piercing hide and bone before the beast even saw its doom. From the tall grasses of the Serengeti to the thorny forests of what is now Ethiopia, blood began to fall at man's hand. Not just from prey, but from rival tribes. The spear was no longer just a hunting tool. It was a declaration of dominance. Every sunrise brought with it a simple, brutal truth. Eat or die. The savannas did not forgive mistakes. A missed throw meant starvation. A moment's hesitation in the chase could mean being chased in return. Children learned early how to flake flint, how to strip sinew for bowstrings, and how to read the ground like a book written in hoofprints and blood. Meat was power. The tribe that brought back the largest kill ruled the fire circle. They sang louder, they told the stories, they mated more. And so the hunt became more than survival, it became identity. Entire cultures rose from the ashes of fire pits, their foundations built on bones and legends. The hunters moved with quiet fury, eyes scanning the horizon for movement, ears tuned for the rustle of grass. They learned the migration paths of gazelles, the weaknesses of giant elands, the sleeping patterns of hippos. They timed their hunts with the precision of assassins, and when they struck, it was swift, savage, and final. But even as they hunted, they were hunted in return. Lions stalked them, crocodiles pulled them into the murk. Insects carried silent death through bites and fevers. The land itself seemed to conspire against them, floods, droughts, and volcanic ash that blackened the sky, yet they endured. Because deep inside them, something ancient burned brighter than fear. The unquenchable fire to dominate the land that had once dominated them. They were not yet fully human, not in the way we think of ourselves, but already their minds worked like knives, and so did their tools. Long before steel, before even bronze, the earliest hunters of Africa became masters of death. through innovation soaked in blood. They shaped bones into blades, teeth into hooks, and horn into clubs. The carcass wasn't just food. It was a resource, a teacher. Every rib cracked open by force, every femur split for marrow, whispered a lesson: kill smarter, survive longer. Archaeologists uncovering the ancient plains of Olduvai Gorge found more than bones. They found patterns. Cut marks on animal skeletons revealed precision. These weren't wild strikes. They were targeted, methodical, and efficient. The so-called butcher apes weren't savages in chaos. They were engineers of slaughter. A joint dislocated here, a tendon sliced there. Entire herds were processed with chilling discipline, and they didn't stop with animals. Territories overlapped, water holes dried up, rival groups approached the same hunting grounds. Conflict was inevitable. Those who had the sharper edge, the bigger fire, or the louder war cry survived. Others were left as shattered skeletons beneath the acacia trees. Warfare had begun, not as conquest, but as competition. And in the eyes of the butcher apes, there was no morality, only hunger and the tools to feed it. Nightfall in the Stone Age was terror incarnate. Predators owned the dark, yet one flickering light kept the monsters at bay: fire. Around it, tribes gathered. They cooked. They told stories. They planned their next kills. Fire was more than warmth. It was communion. And from that communion rose something ancient and sacred: brotherhood. Men who bled together under the same sun, who charged side by side at stampeding herds or cornered rhinoceroses, began to form unbreakable bonds. The tribe was no longer just family, it was strategy. One threw the spear, another flanked, another finished the job. They hunted as one mind, moving with ghost-like coordination through terrain that would kill the untrained in hours. From this, early leadership emerged, not based on birth, but on prowess. The best hunter led, the bravest voice spoke. And around the fire, those leaders carved myths into memory. The man who brought down the bull elephant became a living legend. His story was told in grunts, gestures, and dances that echoed long after his bones were dust. And when enemies came, other tribes drawn to the same watering holes, the same herds, fire became the rallying cry of war. Torches lit in silence. Spears stacked, skulls crushed. The flame didn't just protect, it provoked. Tribes used it to raid, to conquer, and to declare their place in a brutal hierarchy of survival. Brotherhood was no longer just about hunting, it was about killing together. Imagine a creature 3 times the size of a modern lion, with curved tusks that could gore through trees. Picture a massive horned beast, half cow, half nightmare, snorting steam in the morning cold. These weren't legends, they were prey. The African Stone Age hunter didn't just kill for meat. He stared down monsters that today exist only in forgotten fossil beds. There were the straight-tusked elephants towering over the trees, the Pelorovis, an extinct super buffalo with horns longer than a man, the terrifying Dinophelis, a cat whose bite crushed bone like dry wood. These beasts were not curiosities, they were meals, if you could survive them. The tactics evolved. Hunters began herding prey off cliffs. They created stampede traps, driving terrified giants into pits or ambush zones with fire and noise. It took days, sometimes weeks of tracking and maneuvering. One wrong move, one sudden turn from the beast, and a hunter could be flung like a ragdoll into a bloody end. But the risk was worth it. One megafauna kill could feed a tribe for weeks. Its hide became shelter, its bones weapons, its fat fuel. And the stories, oh the stories! They became spiritual, supernatural. The line between the hunter and the hunted blurred in these tales, as if the ghost of the giants returned in dreams, reminding the tribes of what they had dared to bring down. These were not hunts for survival. They were acts of myth-making, challenges to the very order of nature itself. At some point, bloodshed became more than necessity. It became a ceremony. Across the African Stone Age, as tribes grew and languages formed, a new layer wrapped itself around the act of the hunt: meaning. The kill was no longer just a way to live, it was a way to speak with the gods, to connect to ancestors, and to bind the living with the dead. Before the hunt, warriors painted their bodies in ochre and ash. They sang to the spirits of the land, mimicking the calls of beasts, chanting names only the elders remembered. Spears were blessed over fire, their tips kissed by smoke and silence. This wasn't superstition, it was strategy cloaked in reverence. The mind sharpened by ritual was steadier, the hand more confident, the fear quieter. And when the kill came, when the beast finally fell, there was no waste. Blood was offered to the earth, bones stacked in careful circles, skulls placed facing the rising sun. It was as if by killing with purpose, the tribes could justify the horror. Children were taught to honor the animal, to speak its name, and to thank it with tears and songs. And in this way, death gained dignity. Some anthropologists have uncovered stone circles and charred bones arranged with eerie precision, suggesting early altars. In these places, the line between hunt and sacrifice fades. Did they offer animals to spirits for rain, fertility, or vengeance? Or was the ritual kill a way to remember that even in brutality, there must be balance? In the end, the spear was not just a weapon. It was a bridge from flesh to spirit, from hunger to myth. But nature does not yield easily. For every beast brought low by a human spear, 1,000 more adapted, evolved, and retaliated. As humans grew more cunning, so did their prey. Gazelles learned new escape patterns, elephants became more aggressive, charging without warning. The hunted grew wary, and the balance shifted again. Then came climate, the ultimate predator. Drought turned rivers to bone-dry scars. Grasslands withered, herds vanished, insects swarmed, disease swept through the plains. The very stage upon which the blood drama had played for millennia began to crack beneath their feet. The great beasts fell first, not from spears alone, but from starvation, heat, and the slow unraveling of their ancient worlds. The Pelorovis disappeared, the Dinofelis became a whisper in the stone, the straight-tusked elephants walked their final paths into extinction. And with each vanishing giant, something inside the hunter changed. The thrill of conquest began to carry an aftertaste of sorrow. Still, humans endured. They turned to smaller game, finer tools, deadlier strategies. They spread, northward, outward, across deserts and jungles and oceans, but the echoes of Africa's savage hunt followed them. The ghosts of the old prey, the giants, the monsters, the sacred kills, haunted every new campfire. Because in the end, it wasn't just the animals that went extinct, it was the world that made those hunters who they were. And once it vanished, something primal inside humanity went silent too. In the red dust of Africa, humanity was forged not with peace but with blood. Through the fire of the hunt, we rose from prey to predator, shaping not only our tools but our minds, myths, and destinies. But what did we lose in that savage climb? Subscribe, comment, and join us next time as we keep digging through the bones of our forgotten beginnings. Want to discover more about Stone Age life? From hunting techniques to ancient tools, there's so much more to explore about how our ancestors survived and thrived. Subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the Stone Age.